Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We would wait just a couple of minutes to allow everyone to join, and then we will start.
Great. Eduardo, are we going to have access after the end of this video conference to the video conference? Are you going to record it?
Yes, the conference is being recorded, and
Okay,
the recording will be posted on the Leeds website, so you will all see it.
very good. Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you. Because there are many people who want to watch it, but they couldn't attend now. Okay.
Of course.
And one more, in order to watch the video, they need to declare themselves and need to register themselves, so we will know who is going to watch it.
No,
No.
because
Okay.
it will be public on the website. So no,
I see.
this will not be.
Okay, in this way, we are losing the opportunity to know who is going to be interested. I will send you, if I will forward this to you so that you know who is going to watch it. But yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Let us wait 2 more minutes, and at 05 we can start. Okay, I think we can start. A warm welcome to all of you to the first webinar of the Innovation Fund series of webinars organized by the Leeds project. This first webinar, titled Feasibility Study under the Microscope, key section, common gaps and how to fix them, will have a focus on how to prepare a winning feasibility study for the Innovation Fund application. Before we start, I would just like to give you a few practicalities. As mentioned before, the webinar is being recorded. The slides package will be shared with all of you after the event, and the recording will be published on the Leeds website so that you will all be able to watch it. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand using the raise hand function during the specific Q&A moments that are scheduled at the end of each session. At the very end of the webinar, there will also be an open discussion where you can all engage directly with the speakers and ask any follow-up questions you may have. Of course, one-to-one meetings with our experts can also be arranged separately after the webinar. This is just a brief overview of the agenda. I will now give you a few introductory remarks. My name is Edoardo Paganelli. I am a project assistant and I work at Aspire. Within the Leeds project, we are managing the work package on communication and dissemination and supporting the portfolio of Horizon 2020 projects. There will be afterwards a session by Roberto Conti, who is innovation consultant and the lead project manager working at P&O Innovation, where he will focus on how to build a winning innovation fund feasibility study annex. Furthermore, Paola Zitella, senior consultant from P&O Innovation, will deep dive on what are the essential criteria for ensuring that your feasibility study is credible and effective on the side of evaluators. There will be then a short coffee break, virtual coffee break for 10 minutes at 11:15,
Sì.
followed by a
Prego,
session.
prendi stato, non stage.
If you can all mute your microphones, please. Thank you so much. There will then be a session by Patrick Suchodolski, Head of CCUS Development and Implementation Department at Heidelberg Materials, Poland, with a focus on a successful application to the Innovation Fund. At the very end, as aforementioned, we will host an open discussion from 11:45 to 12. Right now, I will just give you some background information on the main objectives, goals, and characteristics of the LEADS project. The essential scope of our project is that of creating and managing a pipeline of Horizon 2020 projects for the Innovation Fund with a specific focus on CCUS. Our consortium is composed of 7 partners. It is led by P&O Innovation, which indeed leads the LEADS project. We also have Aidmairis, a partner from Greece, which is our expert on GHG emission calculations. Aspire, which I represent, as aforementioned, we manage the work package on dissemination and communication and Horizon 2020 projects portfolio. We also have within the consortium IDE Cluster from Norway, our CCUS technology promoter and our point of connection with the various EU clusters. And then Novis, TNO, and Avantium, our 3 project owners, which are part of the consortium. From the technical point of view, LEADS is part of the Horizon Cluster 5 support, with the topic being support for the deployment of RNI results for climate mitigations, synergies with the ETS Innovation Fund. It is a coordination and support action. We are indeed not the only project within this specific topic. We are accompanied by our 4 sisters project to deploy, realize H2IF and Diamond 4IF. The project has started on the 1st of January 2024 with the end being scheduled for 31st December 2026, even though it will be prolonged for a couple of months more in 2027. In terms of objectives, the quintessential objective of the project, as mentioned, is that of creating a pipeline of both Horizon 2020 and the Horizon Europe project to apply to the Innovation Fund. with the aim being that of assessing and selecting the most suitable projects. We do so by building capacity, supporting CCUS project owners to overcome all the residual bottlenecks so as to allow them to prepare for innovation fund investment decision and ultimately to apply to the innovation fund call. We are also focused on fostering synergies between Horizon 2020 and the Innovation Fund, as well as with other EU funding programs. To do so, to create such synergies, and I will refer to it in the next slide, we have created and made available to stakeholders a general set of Innovation Fund tools and materials to support them in applying. Another very important objective is that of reaching a sound impact of performed activities by involving relevant CCUS stakeholders to increase the deal flow from Horizon 2020 and the Innovation Fund, and of course unlocking the full carbon reduction potential of R&I results within Horizon 2020. To reach our objectives, the objectives that I have just mentioned, we have developed what we call the innovation funnel approach. The innovation funnel approach is composed of a number of stages. The first stage is that of an initial mapping and selection phase, where the most promising research projects with high potential are identified through a preliminary assessment. This phase is still ongoing, and organizations which are involved in CCUS activities can be selected to become part of the leads pipeline. The second stage is as follows. The projects that pass the aforementioned phase, this preliminary assessment, undergo what we call a viability check and gap analysis. And the objective of such viability check is that of addressing the project's strengths and weaknesses and determining whether a specific project is mature enough to pass into the next phase. The third phase indeed is the projects that pass the viability check and the gap analysis are helped by leads experts, namely by P&O and Admiris, our two technical partners, where they undergo dedicated training and coaching to being supported to applying to the Innovation Fund. Moreover, as aforementioned, leads in the part of its cross-cutting activities develops tools and services that are made publicly available to support research and industrial projects in improving their readiness and understanding of Innovation Fund requirements. We can see indeed here a first of these examples of publicly available tools, the Innovation Fund guidelines developed by P&O, publicly available within the LEEDS website. You can scan the QR code and access the Innovation Fund guidelines, each of them being focused on a specific aspect of an Innovation Fund application. We have also developed a so-called Innovation Fund self-check questionnaire, which is also available in the LEEDS website, which is a tool designed to help you assess your project's maturity level in full alignment with the Innovation Fund criteria. You can complete this brief survey and you will receive an email afterwards with a final score and a general evaluation. In addition, and in some selected instances, leads experts may contact you for a more detailed follow-up assessment. You can complete the test online just by scanning the QR code or visiting our website. As mentioned at the very beginning, this is just the first of a series of webinars which are focused on the various aspects of the Innovation Fund. Upcoming topics are GHG emission calculation and avoidance, taking place indicatively at the end of March 2026. We will come back to you with the definitive date, and the business plan and financial modeling scheduled for April 2026. You have here the link to our links to our website and to our LinkedIn. We are very much active both on our website and on LinkedIn. So if you wish to stay up to date with all the information from the projects and from the various CSAs which compose the coordinating and support action, you can follow us there. I would now give the floor to Roberto Conti, our first speaker. Just a brief presentation. Roberto is holds a PhD in green chemistry. He's an innovation consultant at P&O and is mainly focused on innovation fund projects and on other programs in the field of energy and environment, such as Horizon, CEF, and LIFE. And as aforementioned, he's the project manager of LEADS. I will now give the floor to Roberto. You can
Thanks,
share your
Eduardo.
screen. Very welcome.
Yeah, I'm going to share the screen. Just 1 second. So anyway, in the meanwhile, good morning, everyone. So you see my screen. Now I need to go to the other slide. See. Okay. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today. With this presentation titled Avoiding Pitfalls, How to Build a Winning Innovation Fund Feasibility Study. And next, I would like to go into detail on the technical preparation of an innovation fund proposal and explore the key aspects that require particular attention to winning, to prepare a good feasibility study annex. But before doing so, let me start with a short introduction about what innovation fund program is. Innovation fund is one of the largest public funding program worldwide, and for sure is one of the most significant in Europe for low carbon technologies. It supports first of a kind projects that are going to deploy innovative low carbon solution at the industrial scale. The innovation fund is financed by revenues from the European Emission Trading System, the ETS, and for this reason, the primary objective is to support projects that deliver substantial and verifiable reduction of CO2 emission. So briefly, we can say that the innovation fund is designed to accelerate the market uptake of clean technologies that can contribute significantly to Europe climate neutrality goals. So Innovation Fund is looking for breakthrough solutions that go beyond the state of the art with the scope of demonstrate a strong decarbonization potential. The industrial sector supported by Innovation Fund, you can see here in the slide, are mainly energy intensive industries, renewable energies and energy storage, of course, carbon capture, use and storage sector, and finally also the net zero mobility and buildings. But what Innovation Fund really funds? Innovation Fund finances projects that are innovative, novel, but also credible and substantially mature. So you can see here in the middle of this slide, credibility. The project should be not only smart but also quite mature and market focused ideas. Indeed, the project should be built on 5 core pillars that are climate impact, of course, because of the GHG emission avoidance goal, degree of innovation, because should be novel compared also to the state of the art, as said before, technically feasible, so including a solid level of technical and operational maturity. That means front-end and engineering design, so feasibility study, technical data, permitting, and so on. We can see more in detail later, and also in the next presentation, a colleague of mine, Paola Stella. Financial maturity, that means that the project should be mature from financial point of view. The applicants must demonstrate financial robustness and profitability with a strong business plan and credible revenue streams. And finally, they have to show a replicability strategy to scale up. So that means that we can summarize that the Innovation Fund finance credible ideas with validated data, a strong execution and operational plan with a realistic timeline. And then it's crucial to remember that the Innovation Fund proposal should be built like an investment case and not like a research proposal. It's the reason why we need to bridge the gap between Horizon 2020 proposal and then Innovation Fund that are quite different focus. So now I just want to focus briefly the attention to the evaluation criteria. So in the Innovation Fund program, we have 5 evaluation criteria with a cascade approach. The first one is the degree of innovation. Then we have the GHG emission avoidance, maturity, that included technical, financial, and operational maturity, replicability, and cost efficiency. Plus, we have 3 bonus points. But today, in this webinar, we will focus on the technical feasibility. Then in the series of webinar, we will have another webinar next month related to the GHG emission calculation, and then finally another one for the financial maturity and business plan aspects. So you can see, if you follow the series, the other aspects in the next webinar, but today the focus is on the technical feasibility. So the technical feasibility address 2 evaluation criteria, the degree of innovation and the level of maturity, that especially the technical and the operational one. These 2 criteria answer to the question what and how. So the degree of innovation answer to the what the innovation, what is the innovation and why it go beyond the state of the art. The maturity answer to the question how the project will be realized. So talking about the development plan and technical maturity and operational. So under the degree of innovation criterion, the project must clearly demonstrate how they go beyond the current status of the state of the art. It's important to note that state of the art doesn't refer to scientific literature. For state of the art in the Innovation Fund is refers to the commercial state of the art, including technology already deployed on the market and the previous project already supported, financed by Innovation Fund. Is the reason why we need a strong comparison with the former Innovation Fund, similar to ours project already funded. And you can see on the right, the Innovation Fund official dashboard. You can check the dashboard, a public dashboard available on the web by Cinea, and you can find there all the project, Innovation Fund project funded. You can take information about this project, and you can compare. You can use to compare your project. The degree of innovation, let's say, go from an incremental innovation, then from an intermediate strong innovation, and then we have very strong or breakthrough innovation. If your project show only incremental innovation, is not eligible, let's say, for the Innovation Fund. I mean, what I mean is that the score for the degree of innovation in this case should not pass the threshold. So your project should be at least should demonstrate at least intermediate or strong innovation, or better, if it is a very strong or breakthrough innovation. Common mistake and pitfalls on this point include limited novelty compared to existing commercial solution. So there's a weak or poor substantiated innovation claims. So that means your innovation is not so strong, or maybe is strong, but the applicants substantiated with a weak or poor claims your idea. So you should also demonstrate and explain why your innovation, your technology is really innovative. Finally, the innovation should be not only focused on the technical point, but the project should demonstrate a strong market potential and profitability prospects. So if you don't do that, your project will receive a lower score. We always must have in mind that the Innovation Fund finance a solid business-oriented project. Then we have the second criteria, that is the maturity. In this case, the keyword I can say is the reality. So to demonstrate technical maturity and operational maturity, you should demonstrate to have preliminary studies already did in order to demonstrate using real data, is the reason why the reality, that you already carried out studies that confirming that the technical feasibility is possible at a smaller scale. That means you are demonstrating to the evaluators that your project it's credible because you already tested and you are ready to go in a commercial scale. Then you should demonstrate your technical assessment so that your project is supported by not only strong technical innovation, but it's with a well-defined execution strategy. So the execution operational plan we discussed before. Finally, the comparison with the commercial benchmark, as I said, and quite important, the quantitative assumption. So all the claims you are going to include in your proposal should be quantitative and not qualitative only. So we need number. So where we can report all this information in the feasibility study annex. That is one of the mandatory documentation that should be included in the final package proposal for the submission. Is a 60 pages maximum. There is a template provided by CINEA, but it's not mandatory, it's only recommended. Before going to the details with the feasibility study annex, I want just to show you this timeline. This is a typical timeline for the Innovation Fund, and I want to explain how the timeline is connected with the feasibility study. You can see on the left that the pre-FEED, so the feasibility study, the pre-front-end engineering design, should be considered as a condition sine qua non before the submission. That means you should already have some preliminary studies. And typically, the Innovation Fund implementation timeline is divided in 3 phases. The first one is up to financial close, so the project preparation, you can see there, where you have to show your studies, you should demonstrate your permits, your contracts, and so on. Then, when you get the financial close, you reach the financial close, so the final investment decision, you start the construction, and then you go to the operation phase. The feasibility study should explain how the beneficiary will ensure the timely completion of this project preparation phase, the first phase, in accordance to the milestone and to the timeline. So you should demonstrate how you can reach the financial close. So now going as in the deep dive deeply on the technical and the feasibility study annex. one of the section you can find in the template is the technical assessment. It's maybe the most important. The technical assessment, you should provide a comprehensive analysis of the technology readiness. That means you should describe technology development and your process, your plans with preliminary studies, mass and energy balance diagram, P&I, but the suggestion is easily describe the pros and the plans. Nevertheless, you need, of course, a detailed technical information, and you should use appropriate engineering terminology. But try to be to make it easy, because of course the evaluators are expert, but you have a lot of information to show, and everything should be clear, comprehensive, and coherent with the narrative. So try to explain everything in an easy way. Another important point is the technological readiness level versus the system readiness level. In a common way, of course the innovation fund finance projects with innovative technologies starting from a tier 6, 7, maybe 8, and the goal is to reach the tier 9. But sometimes some projects are not focused on a TRL, but on a system readiness level. So sometimes you have already fully commercial available solutions, but you can integrate together, combining technological solution and process with digital innovation, with a new business model innovation, with a hardware, with a digital twin, for instance. In this case, you are not increasing your TRL that is already 8 or 9, but you are increasing the system readiness level. And this is also allowed for the innovation fund. So you can apply also in this case. But of course, it's normal that project with a TRL 9 and increasing only the system readiness level anyway can receive a lower score in the degree of innovation criterion compared to a breakthrough technology. Yeah. Another important point is the location analysis and the strategic approach. So that is related to the permitting and regulatory framework. So that means you should describe the site where the project will be developed. And to have a feasible location, a feasible site, you should have all the permits you need to building and also for the environmental impact assessment. So the Innovation Fund asks you to show the permits, but doesn't require that all the permits should be already obtained before submission. But you should explain the plan, the strategy you have in order to obtain them. In the next presentation with Paola, some of these information will be provided with more details. So you should demonstrate that you already identified the permits you need. You have a permit roadmap, and the permit roadmap timeline is in accordance with the financial close milestone. So you should have all the permits, of course, because the final investment decision before the financial close, the first step before the construction. Finally, another point is the supply chain and the value chain. So the resources and the feedstock availability. In this case, in this annex, the European Commission is asking for describe your value chain and your supply chain. Don't forget that you are a business-oriented project. So you should have already in mind a clear supply chain. So if your project needs feedstock as input, you should demonstrate that you have already preliminary agreements with supplier for a realistic volume with not already decided prices, but you have an idea about the volume and the prices. You already identified the supplier, and the volumes should be guaranteed not only for 1 year, but for all the project lifetime. So if your project is for 10 or 20 years, you should demonstrate that your feedstock availability is guaranteed for this long period. To do that, you should also demonstrate a good procurement strategy, and remember the best value for money should be always guaranteed. How to do that? For the feedstock, for instance, for the supplier, letter of support, letter of intent with suppliers are really important. And from this year, the terms of supply is also mandatory. Other kind of supply chain in addition to the feedstock is the electricity. So a lot of projects needs electricity. So you need PPA maybe, and in this case, you need always green PPA. Finally, you have to describe the value chain. So all the aspects related to the logistic, inbound, outbound logistic, the marketing and sales. So all the tasks, the activities associated with the value of the product, the service to the customer, and so on. The suggestion is for the value chain, graphical explanation with some diagrams is useful to describe the value chain. It's more useful to describe with a diagram than with a complex narrative. Then, of course, a business-oriented project with an execution plan should demonstrate a risk analysis. So you should describe your risk management internal in your company. You should have a risk register. You should select the most important technical and operational risk in the feasibility study, and of course with mitigation measures. Don't be shy. Don't worry about showing in your project high impact risk. It's not a problem to demonstrate, to be honest, and to say, look, my project have a high impact risk. The important thing is, if you have a high impact risk, you should have a strong mitigation measure. If you describe that you have an impact, you know that you have a strong risk, but you already selected, you already identified a strong mitigation measure, you're okay. Then I just want in this slide focus on the CCS specific recommendation, because the LEADS project is focused on the CCUS project. In a CCS project, in the CCS value chain is quite complex because it's the carbon, the transport, and the storage phases. And of course, not all the phases could be directly within your scope. Maybe your project is focused on the capture and not on the transport and storage. So that means that your project is only one piece of the puzzle of the entire puzzle, that is the CCS value chain from capture to storage. So of course you should demonstrate your feasibility in the capture, but the evaluators want to see also all the puzzle. So you should demonstrate that your project is aligned to the other section, so the other part of the value chain, so the transport and storage. So you should demonstrate that you already establish agreements with the stakeholders for the TNS, transport and storage value chain. So you should have also already a supply chain well defined, and you should demonstrate a good strategy in around across the entire value chain. Finally, I just want to conclude this presentation with the top 5 common mistakes that applicants do normally in the feasibility study preparation. So at the 5th position, you have unclear scope. So it's quite important to define in a clear way what is the innovation fund scope, because normally the innovation fund project is just one part of your company project that for sure is bigger than innovation fund. Innovation fund is just a small part of your large project ideas. So you should define better the battery limits. Then the permitting that often are underrated. So it's really important to have a clear permitting strategy to define all the permits. The feedstock supply chain, so the feedstock volumes and prices should be provided. Otherwise, you have a lack of maturity. And then also the preliminary studies, if are unclear or not well substantiated, it's a common mistake, and you can obtain a shortcoming from evaluators. But the number one of the common mistakes is the narrative without numbers. So don't forget to make narrative with strong numbers with quantitative assumption. That's the most important thing. I conclude my presentation. Thanks for kind attention, and now we are ready for any question if you have.
Thank you so much, Roberto. You can indeed raise your hands. I see Tassos, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry, my camera is not working, so I'm not seeing my face. Just to be clear on slide 18, Roberto,
Yeah.
could you repeat, please, the geographical
Yeah, you
involvement?
mean the location?
Yes, the location,
Yeah.
because 18,
Yeah.
slide 18,
Yeah,
1-8.
I have a dimmer numbering because it's together with the presentation of Eduardo, so I don't know which
I
is
see, I
which
see it. Yeah, I see it. Before
which
go
slide you mean.
go to the left. Okay, continue. Ah, here. No,
This one?
here. Yes. So just to clarify for the audience that innovation, and I'm asking you, is innovation something which been done normally in China, for example, but it is not being done in Europe?
Okay, understood. What you
Yes.
mean is if applicants, not European applicants, can apply to innovation fund.
No. I'm asking if it is regarded as innovation, something that is already happening, a good technology which is taking place, is used in
Okay.
China, for example, but not in Europe. Is this innovation?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Is innovation. Yeah,
This is very important.
the focus is Europe, of course. I
Okay,
mean, if something is well developed in other continents, in China, in the USA, not in Europe, and you are the first one in Europe to do that, it's still a strong innovation, of course.
good.
Yes, because
Okay,
the
this is
focus
what I
is the
wanted
European
to
is the
discuss. Okay,
European. Yeah, sure.
thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome. We have another question.
Yes, please.
Yes,
you
Robert.
can go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, yes, Robert, my question are two. One is there a plan for Innovation Fund to try in another way in terms of pilot to focusing in African countries? That's number one. And number two, has the Innovation Fund find a way to engage with the UNDP based in Rome? Because they're having a mission innovation program in that direction. Thank you.
Okay. So, if I understood your question, the first point about the geographically situation is that all companies can apply to the innovation fund, even if a company is a legal entity. I mean, not a legal entity, if is a not European company, but you should have a branch in Europe, and the plant you are going to develop, so the technology and the plant you are going to develop should be in a European territory. So you can also be an American or a Chinese company, but with a company with a legal entity in Europe, and the plant should be located in Europe. Was it clear? I mean, the answer?
Okay, I think you've asked it in up way. My point was the innovation operation. Okay,
Yeah.
will there be a moment where our focus is giving fund to projects that are based in Africa, but the company could be operating here, but it gives fund in Africa? That's the way I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah, but
Okay.
the operation is in Africa, you mean? The operation.
Yes.
No, exactly. The operation, the plant should be located in Europe. You cannot operate in other continent. The operational phase, also the construction. So all the plant, all the phases. So all these phases should be related in a European territory. So the plant, the technology should be developed and should be operational in Europe.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? Do not see any hands raised. Okay, if other questions on this topic can also be asked during the open discussion. So I would now move on to the next part of the webinar, welcoming Paola Zitella from P&O Innovation. Paola Zitella holds a master's degree and a PhD in chemical engineering. She's been supporting, she has more than 20 years of experience in supporting innovations, and she's been working with the P&O Innovation since October 2025. In her presentation, she will guide us through how to build an annex, a feasibility study that is effective and compelling on the side of evaluators. Thank you so much, Paola. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Edoardo, for your presentation. I will share my screen. Well, I think, okay. I think you can see my screen now. And now, I guess in the presentation mode.
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. So let's go through the key elements of a feasibility study, because I would like to explain why it plays such a crucial role in the innovation fund evaluation processes. The part B is not a summary of a feasibility study. On the contrary, feasibility study, it is the technical and quantitative backbone of the proposal. Everything you declare in the part B must be fully supported by calculation, explanation, and solid evidence provided in the feasibility study. So if the part B tells the story, feasibility study proves that the story is real. The feasibility is intrinsically the measure of how easily something can be achieved. So the question is, whatever it can be finally achieved, you need to clearly demonstrate to the evaluators that the project can be implemented within the available time frame and with the available resources. So in the feasibility study, you need to prove sound evidence-based justification from demonstrative required, for example, starting level of innovation. So this is the first part that you need to support in the part B, the degree of innovation. And you can use the feasibility study from demonstrate it. The innovation fund focus, as already Roberto said and explained very well, on market deployment. Therefore, eligible projects are typically in a pre-commercial scale and involve or involve scaling up of innovative technologies. This means that research, pilot activities, technology demonstration should already have been completed, and all this information must be clearly demonstrated and described and documented in the feasibility study. And so how you can demonstrate this? Well, there is a huge difference between building, for example, a small wooden house or a skyscraper. And one of the basic difference relies in the foundation required to support this kind of structure. In the feasibility study, you must demonstrate that you have a solid foundation needed for support a skyscraper, because Innovation Funds project is skyscraper, it's not wooden house. So if your project scale up an existing technology, the innovation may rely in the scaling itself. So the degree of innovation could be stronger or intermediate, and that depends on how significant is the scale up. Even if technology is mature, the challenge of implementing it at larger scale can be present a real innovation and also challenges. So in the feasibility study, you must prove that the technology has already been developed and proven. You must provide the performance result, explain the construction, the reliability, the maintenance, the economics of your project. And you need also to compare your solution to the alternatives. As already said, it's not a state-of-art related just on literature, but you need to compare your project and your technology to the already existing industrial ones. You need to analyze logistics. Yeah.
Senin beni harcamana gülüyorum. Görüntülesin.
Please, can you mute the microphone?
Yeah, done. I have muted all.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch up. It was
I
it the
think
question?
it was a background noise, Paola.
No, it was a background noise.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please. Paola.
Okay. And so you, as already Roberto said, you need to analyze technological and economical barriers, logistics, and something could be, in my opinion, something good to provide is a detailed stakeholder list with customers, suppliers, technical partners, advisors, also with some demonstrations and letter of interest already signed, because it demonstrate that your evidence is stronger and increase your credibility. One of the main pillars in project evaluation is the technical feasibility of achieving the expected result and outputs in time. Demonstrating the feasibility of project means that not only to showing the way to get from A to B, but also proving that you are capable of making it happen. The concept of time is intrinsically linked to feasibility. I must be able to do what I promised to do within the established time frame. To do this, I must provide evidence of kinetics of the processes. For example, thermodynamics tell us that we will go from A to B, but it is the kinetics that tell us how long it will take. The abstraction of this fundamental concept of physical applied to the goals to be achieved with innovation fund projects is what is needs to be supported with data in feasibility study. You must clearly explain your assumption, the characteristic of plant products, volumes and quantity and product outputs. The planned production should be consistent with the plant capacity and maintenance periods. All the assumptions are conservative and accurate, so you need to avoid any kind of over or underestimation. You need to support your evidence with mass and energy balances, with process flow design, with layouts and basic engineering market analysis. All that evidence could be provided in the feasibility study. You need to support the soundness of operational maturity also. And this is another key element. So you need to list the intellectual property rights, licenses, permits, regulatory processes. You need to clearly state which have been already obtained and which are still pending, with realistic plan and timeline for it. You need to explain the impact of a regulatory framework of the place in which you would like to locate your plant for project. And you need also to provide documents that show that you have support by the relevant authorities about this. And related to operational maturity, identically, you need to identify any kind of potential regulatory barriers that could affect the project. And this could be, you need also to include the missing standard or restriction of a market access. You need to make sure that the environmental impacts are properly addressed and clearly defined at every stage of a project life cycle, the construction, but not only the construction, but also operation and decommissioning. You need to describe with credibility and realism the steps that you're going to take up, what you are planning to do. And also you need to put your attention on the public acceptance of a project and evaluate how well this acceptance will be achieved with a plan for all the activities that we would like to develop in order to involve also the public. Now, the risk analysis section is something that must be carefully overlooked, because sometimes happens that this section is a little bit underestimated, but this is essential. Risk is by definition something unexpected. Simply stating, for example, that a good design is a mitigation measure is not enough. Mitigation measure must be specific, credible, and feasible. So, for example, the delay due to the late deliveries of material, you don't need to put as a mitigation measure that I made a good design, so everything will be right. You need to provide lists of alternative suppliers, evaluate materials availability, or also agreements with providers with penalty in case that they will not be able to provide the material that you need. Or another example, the risk related to failure to achieve desired product quality. For example, identify the use of online analysis and measurement tools is not an adequate mitigation measure. This mitigates the risk of not realizing the material is inadequate, but the need to put corrected measures in place is something different. And as also Eduardo said, we need to learn from a past experience. So the identification of the most probable problems is something that we can learn from the past. The four main problems that led to unsuccessful project in Innovation Fund are that innovation are not sufficiently identified and justified, that the state of art comparison is not sufficiently well elaborated, or inconsistencies across documents and numbers, or insufficient evidence to support innovation claims. But the feasibility study could provide the background information and the technical assessment that could support, for example, your innovation claimant. You need to support the credible performance data, demonstrating measurable improvement over existing solution. You need to establish single source of truth and regularly review and align all the material to that one. You need to address any similarities with ongoing innovation fund projects. This is something that lets someone to fail at less points, because you need really to read all the previous past innovation fund projects that are ongoing, and to explain how your proposal differs or adds to that ones. Other example in how to do a good jobs, for example. You need to demonstrate clear innovation that goes beyond the current commercial and technological state of art, both at overall process or in terms of key components. So you need to compare technologies, provide the key players, strengths and weakness for each process that could be similar to yours. And you need to classify the technologies that are either emerging or established, and you base on literature and industrial application. For example, to provide a table comparing previous and ongoing projects and to highlight each kind of differences with the proposed technology that you are going to put in place in your project, the old ones, could be something clear to be identified, and so helps the evaluators in evidence and support your innovation claims respect to the other ones. Now, I would like to play a game with you. Which is the images that is real and which one is fake? I give you a moment, but I think that everyone think that the left one is not real and the right one it is. This is because you need to be honest and to tell the truth. Despite what, for example, Nietzsche suggested, that all the credibility and the evidence of truth come only from our senses, the reality is that objective data supporting ideas must be solid and real, because truth sets you free. You need to be honest and transparent and telling the truth, because frees you from anxiety of having to fulfill promises that you cannot fulfill. The monitoring phase is part of a project and must be coherent in the long term with what you state in your project description. The numbers in the feasibility study must be strong based because they form a foundation of the entire process development and description. So in the long run, transparency, avoid complication. If you have uncertainties about something, include the scenario in the risk analysis and think ahead to provide possible solution. Believability gives you credibility, but the believability refers to three main pillars: the way you present the process, the consistency between your words and the numbers, the ability to make the text understandable. Incoherence suggests that you're trying to hide something. The information must be communicated in an authentic and consistent manner. If you are considered believable, evaluators will trust you. So honesty is the foundation, but consistency demonstrates credibility. If you are honest, but you cannot make yourself believable to a lack of number on solid data, the project will lose credibility. And you have to keep in mind that proposal evaluators for the Innovation Fund are selected based on their specific skills. During a consensus meeting, more experts from each field cross-check the figures that you declare. Let's give me the last game with you. What are the difference between the three images for each subject? So just have a look of that. Well, the difference is that on the left side you have a draw, right side you have something that is more similar to a picture or photograph. And the difference between a project that is just a good idea on paper and one that feels real lies in the level of detail and consistency. So in order to demonstrate that you are providing not just a draw, but a real picture, a real photograph of something that could be realized, you need to focus on some main key points. So you need to go into the right level of that, substantiate all the statements, support claims with tested empirical scientific data that you already got on previous experience. You need to avoid repeating the same concept, but really describe the environment and all the potential context of application. Because the golden rule is that ensure consistencies across all the sections of a feasibility study will let you to provide a winner feasibility study and support all the part B of your project. So in conclusion, if your innovation fund project would need a solid foundation, you can well describe it in the feasibility study. The honesty is, of course, a pillar. The consistency builds your credibility. Solid numbers create trust, and trust is what finally persuades evaluators and let you win. And that's all from my side. I am available for any kind of questions.
Thank you, Paola. If there are some questions from the audience, you are free to raise your hand and
I guess I was clear.
you were indeed. Very well then. We can now have the coffee break. So we can meet again at 11:15.
You.
Thank you so much. See you
Thank
soon.
you.
I think we can start again. We have our last part of the webinar with Patryk Suchodolski from Heidelberg Materials, Poland. Patryk joined Heidelberg Materials in 2021. He has since then been involved in low carbon emission projects, and he is currently manager for the development and implementation of CCUS technologies. As you can see, he will guide us through a CCS success story, XAR. So I would give you the floor, Patryk.
Thank you very
so
much. Thank you, Eduardo. Hello, everyone. I'm glad that I'm able to share a little bit of insights on our project, how we approach that, and I will try to tell you some tricks and tips which we used, and maybe how to avoid some mistakes which we made. What are the best practices we used for this project development? Excuse me. One moment. Yeah, so a little bit about the Heidelberg, about our CCUS portfolio. It is very broad portfolio, and we are proud to expand it with every year. We were very successful last year in the Innovation Fund applications because 4 of our projects were invited for the grant application, grant agreement preparation process. One of which, this is the Husar project. This is the project which is located in Poland, and this is project which is focusing mainly on the pilot storage development in Poland. Of course, for now, I couldn't disclose too much of information because we are still in the process of the grant agreement signature. However, I believe in the upcoming months, you will hear a little bit more about the project in the publicly available data. So just to shape a little bit this presentation, I want to explain how we came up with this idea, because usually, typically, when you are thinking about CCS in the cement plants, you're thinking, yeah, carbon capture plant, this is the way to go. So our plant is located very much south Poland. We are in the southern western part of Poland here, located in Opole Voivodeship. And as you can see, to decarbonize our plant, to transport the CO2, we would need to include very long value chain from our cement plant to the storage sites, which are currently under the development. On the map here, you can see where are the sites which are being under the development, and in the straight line, there is approximately 600 kilometers from our plant to the closest storage site. And what I want to show you here is that you need to think about rationale of your project, how to shape it, how to sell it later on to the relevant experts who will later on mark your project. And from this page, you can see that we were missing the mature storage site, which is close to the Garage Cement plant, and we wanted to address this issue. So, of course, once you have the idea, you need somehow to transfer it into the proposal. And in our case, we have tackled this issue by organizing the workshops, Innovation Fund workshops in January 2025. We had our need. We want to decarbonize our clinker production. As we stated previously, the current gap which we had to fulfill was the need of the storage and the transport. Because that makes the difference. You wouldn't see a significant differences between different technologies, between different countries once you want to implement your carbon capture technology. The cost of the abatement, so the transport and storage, this is the cost which will later on make the difference. That's why we gathered experts from different fields, from different partners in place, and when we held 3 days workshop. It was a face-to-face workshop where we sat in the same room. We focused on the brainstorming. We invited the consultants, the P&O innovation group supported us in this exercise. However, before we arrived to the site, we had the first idea of the project in our head. However, it wasn't that we were very fixed on our idea. We went there to brainstorm, to clash different approaches. And why did we include the consultants from the beginning? Because first of all, it saves some time. You don't need to go through the process of the materialization of your proposal a couple of times, because maybe in a group of experts you can come up with one idea. However, later on, if you clash it with your with the requirements of the innovation fund, of the rules, like for example the cost of the abatement or the scoring of different aspects, you would need to reshape again your idea, your proposal. Of course, there was a session where consultants explained to us what are the rules, how could we fit into the rules according to the Innovation Fund standards. And at the end, we exercised a small activity where we had the first estimate of the scoring, because you can do the rough estimate how much it would cost the project itself, uh, what will be the scoring on the financial aspects, how does your project stand in terms of the state art technology. Is it the unique approach? Is it something which maybe is done somewhere else? As well as there is a first glance on the permitting process, on the timeline, and so on and so on. Okay, so after Warsaw, we came up with the head full of the ideas how to approach this project. And in this slide, you can see how much of a workload we had throughout the process of preparing the application. At the beginning of the project, where you have the initial meetings on the, let's say, expert level, you include only number of people who are the experts in the field. Of course, you need to have the approval from your board or maybe from your management to go forward with the project. So you need to pitch the idea to your management. It is sufficient to include a couple of people at the beginning because you need to create a high-level overview of the project. You don't need to go very much into the detail. You're just scratching the surface. However, later on, as I said, there were workshops. There were 20 to 12 people included from the partner side. And we had 4 people from the consultant side, where you are aiming to include people with business development background, with the engineering the background, also include some decision makers who will later on back up your story in front of the management once you want to achieve or reach the final approval for the Innovation Fund application. Include people who are open-minded, who are solution-oriented, because it will be very intense 3 days or couple of days. It depends on how you will shape it, because you need to be very swift in the decision making, as well as you want to bring some new ideas, because we need to keep in mind this is the innovation fund. So by the name, as the name it states, yes, you are aiming for the innovative aspects, especially for the pilot scale applications, where the innovative aspect is scored as a double points, because as I recall correctly, from large scale to small scale forms of the innovation fund, the scoring for the innovation aspect is 15 points. As well, for the pilot scale, it is doubled, so maximum 30 points of the from the all scoring you can achieve in the innovative aspect. Then once we had the decision to apply for the innovation fund, we had to set up the teams. We need to align who will be responsible for what aspect of the feasibility study, also of the business plan. Of course, this is today's meeting is mainly focused on the feasibility study. However, I will touch upon a little bit on the business plan as well, because I believe these two aspects, they are connected. You need to set up the framework of your work. You need to set up the meetings, very regular meetings. We had every week a meeting for the feasibility study, for the business plan, for the organizational matters, and you start to include more and more people who will be delivering some results towards the feasibility study. you need to ensure that you have sufficient support from the management, because from day one you need to ramp up your capabilities as much as possible. Because trust me, it was the most intense time of my life. These 3 months, 4 months, it was the most intense time of my life, where you are spending 16 hours per day over the application, and you're ensuring that you are providing as quality content as possible. And then the application preparation, you need to deliver, of course, the different chapters for the feasibility study, for the business plan. You need to monitor the progress, adapt your strategy, because maybe you are backed up with some work in some aspects. So you need to shift a little bit your resources, your focus point towards these points which are missing, because you need to deliver everything, everything in the highest quality to be considered as the, if you want to consider your application as the good quality application. You will involve people from the multiple departments, from the financials, engineering, environmental, legal, HR, project execution, and so on, so on. In our case, there were approximately 60 people only from our organization who were involved in the process of the application preparation. So you will move forward very fast, and there wouldn't be a lot of time to come back to what you have already done. That's why you need to ensure that this is the top-notch results. Our internal deadline for delivering all of the chapters was between 17th and 22nd. It was depending on what we were talking about. For example, the project participant information file, it was the latest part which we delivered. However, the feasibility study was the first aspect which we have finished. So the deadline for that, it was the 17th. And between 17th and 24th of April last year, there was a time of 1-2 weeks where you are doing only minor changes to your application. You're looking if the application is consistent throughout all the chapters, if you haven't missed anything, if there are some major issues, try to identify them as soon as possible, because let's be realistic, you have only 24 hours in a day. You wouldn't be able to deliver much more within 1 or 2 week time span. So as you can see, it was a very quick ramp up of the capacities of the workload which we had, and later on, once we are moving towards the end of the towards the deadline, the workload is going downwards, because we are finishing more and more chapters, and we could focus more on the final touches to the application. Today we have touched upon a little bit on the narrative. What the narrative is, I believe this is one of the most important aspects of your application, because narrative tells the story of the project. It is used later on to track development and verify the descriptions of the relevant chapters of the application. The good narrative consists, in my opinion, it consists on 3 aspects. It covers the EU goals, so it describes how you are fitting into the all the regulation and the decarbonization goals of the European Union. Maybe also you can touch upon on your national climate plans, how it will fit into these. Also, you're focusing on the technology, but I think we have discussed a lot on the technology, how to prove what is innovative and how to prove this is the state-of-the-art technology. And the replicability, this is the aspect where we are showing how your technology could be replicated in different locations geographically, as well as different sectors. And as well, you need to describe what level of the decarbonization can be achieved by using this technology, what will be the estimated cost of the implementation, and so on and so on. This is not the exclusive list of the questions which you need to answer. However, it will guide you a little bit what needs to be included. The narrative, well-structured narrative, will save you time, because when different people are included in different parts of the application, so whenever someone is coming into the project, suddenly you need to ramp up their knowledge about the project. This is the place where they can go, they read about the project and ensure that they are aligned with all the other people who are involved in the project. The another aspect which I would like to highlight is the permitting and the suppliers. In our case, in this CO2 storage project, the permitting is the key. I believe it also is the key for all other projects because usually this is the issue which is slowing down all the innovation fund projects. Do not underestimate how much work you will need to do with the permitting processes because as I stated before, the innovation which you are bringing into the market, it will bring the attention of different authorities. They will ask you more questions about how the technology works, what are the wastes and products of this technology, how you will approach the environmental, let's say, sound of the project, and so on and so on. And also permitting impacts your timeline of the project because the financial close, which was mentioned in the first presentation, is the moment of time in the project where you're signing all the permits and all the financial agreements. And this is the financial close. That's why it is very important to make it credible, because without credible permitting process and approach, you wouldn't get the credible project maturity. You wouldn't have the high scoring of the project maturity level. Because the project maturity level also includes the permitting process, and the experts will mark how credible is your plan and what are the backup, or maybe what is the backup, or maybe what are the measures to reduce the risk of delays. You can use as an example some past projects because there are some new permitting processes which will be associated with your project. However, there are always standard permitting processes, like for example the building permit, environmental permit. They usually, you know how much it takes to get these. You can sometimes use law or regulations. For example, in the NZIA, Net Zero Industrial Act, there are some provisions on the CO2 storages that if it's implemented into the country, then you have some fixed time period within which you supposed to receive the answer to your permit application. Also use some analysis of the expert, like for example law companies or maybe permitting experts who can support you in creating this Gantt chart for the permitting process. Of course, okay, maybe we'll move to the suppliers. So when you are shaping your project, you are starting with the class 5 estimate on the cost of your installation. Once you are moving towards the realization of the project, your assessment will be more and more on point. Will be the error will be smaller and smaller. However, in the application, you need to somehow confirm how much you will be spending on the project, because this will be later on verified by the expert, by CINEA. And how can you do it? So first of all, reach out to the main suppliers as soon as possible. You can back up your story with the market research. You can ask for the offers, maybe some non-binding offers, maybe some service rates you can get from the market. Maybe you can get some letter of intents from the suppliers, and this will later on back up your estimates on the cost of some parts of your project, and that will be also included in the business plan and as well in the financial models. It is reasonable. If you identify a supplier which is key for your project realization, it is reasonable to state with the supplier of the key components, because by the EU innovation rules, you need to reach the financial close within 4 years since you sign your grant agreement. It is, from one side, it is a lot of time. However, on the other side, it is not so much, having in mind that you need to reach all the maturity level to make the financial investment, this final investment decision. It is really not that much of a time. Of course, identify your main risk in terms of permitting and in terms of suppliers. Back up your story, trying to find mitigation measures for this, and be open about that, because as Paola said, you need to sell, or maybe you need to present credible story and be trustworthy, because this will be also marked by the expert. If it's reasonable, if so, how, why is it credible? What are the risks associated with this part? And of course, if you involve the consultants in the process, they will support you in the preparation and description of these permitting processes on the supplier part of the project. However, they don't have the expertise which you have. They don't know the market that much. You are the guys who are leading this task. Of course, they will support you as much as possible. They will support you with verification if the proposed explanation is sufficient for the Innovation Fund experts. And the last slide, which I would like to conclude my presentation, is the review after the scoring of the project. So, first of all, do not repeat our mistakes. Start your preparations as soon as possible. Once the call is announced, let's ensure that you have the first idea, you have these meetings with your partners, because later on it will be a much more intense than it should be, and you need to mature your idea as much as possible, because again, credible, trustworthy story about your project implementation. It's not only about the innovation, but it is also about the implementation of the project. The second point, permitting. This is very important. Do not underestimate this. Experts which are scoring your project, they might not be experts in your local permitting processes. However, they understand how complex it is. They see what are the lessons learned from the previous projects and what are the delays in some project, and why there are some delays, mainly because of the permitting issues. Present the convincing story for the business plan, because as the part of the application, you will share your business plan, and it would need to be consistent with your feasibility study, with the part B, and back up your story with the relevant letter of support, letter of intents, future contracts, and ensure that during the reading of the descriptions, you are understanding the project correctly and you're stating the most important parts there. And this is very specific to our project. If you differ from the standards in the asset life depreciation, please ensure that you're stating it correctly and properly, and you mark it, let's say, bolded, because reviewers need to understand if you have the deviations from any standards, they need to understand why there is a deviation from the standards, because otherwise you will lose points. They will see it as inconsistency throughout your application, and every point matters. And the last one, do not hide any risk. Be transparent. We got very high scoring on the technical and operational maturity because we are open about the risks. If there are major risks, do have the backup plan, present the convincing story, do the risk assessment properly, and do not hide anything, because they would see it through. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope you have some better clarity on what was our approach.
Thank you so much, Patrick. We can now host an open discussion. In case you have any questions to Roberto, Patrick, or Paula, feel free to raise your hand, and looking through the chat if we have something. Oh, we have a questions from Tassos. Please, Tassos, go ahead.
Yes, a very good presentation, guys. All of you, it's very eye-opening. One question. I don't know if it is the proper forum to discuss that or not. What about numbers? Meaning, what do we have any understanding on what kind of IRR or what kind of NPV, especially IRR, because NPV is it's not so relevant. Is it acceptable by the IF applications so that we can have, let's say, an understanding of the profitability that we need to show? Because at the end of the day, as you said, this has to be a profitable business. It's not just a research innovation. So do we have any notion on these things and where the audience can be addressed in order to can look up in order to be able to get an answer to that? Thank you.
Yeah, okay, maybe I can answer this question. It will depend from project to project, because some of the projects, they are so-called the strategic projects. Like, for example, in this approach which I presented, this pilot project, we wouldn't be profitable in the years which are covered under the innovation fund. However, this is the strategic project, and if you have the financial backing from your companies, and they can state clearly that they understand the risk and they accept this, the commission will accept your project as well. Of course, in the large scale, you need to be positive on the numbers. So as well as you need to back up your premium on the net zero products or maybe green products.
I see.
You need to have very trustworthy and relevant letter of support, letter of intents from different suppliers, or maybe from different buyers. Because, like, for example, for cement, yes, you need to convince the European Commission that there will be a market for the green cement. So I would say for the large, medium, small scale, you would need to be above NPV 0 over the lifetime of the project. But for the pilot projects, you can be on the negative side, but you need to have very good backing.
Oh, okay, thank you. But I understand that the profitability would play a role if there are two, let's say, similar projects, or and then one is really profitable and so on. So, do we gain points if we are profitable in what we are having? And I'm not talking about the pilots. I am talking about the other parts.
I think
Yes,
this is not clearly stated in the innovation fund. Basically, the scoring, how it is shaped, the scoring of the innovation fund is not taking into account if your project is more profitable or not from the other. Of course, if the project is more profitable, they can ask for less grant from the innovation fund, and that will impact, of course, your scoring. Yes. But if there is a scenario that both of the projects are asking for the same grant amount,
correct.
they have the same avoidance, CO2 avoidance volumes, they have, let's say, they are very same projects, I would say there wouldn't be difference in the scoring of these projects.
Roberto.
If may, I just would like to add some information. Yeah, thanks, Patrick, because it was really clear what you said. Well, so the profitability, as Patrick already said, is not a criteria. So it's not that a project more profitable than another one take a good score than higher score than another one. The profitability is important to highlight and demonstrate the financial maturity. And of course, as I said in the presentation, the Innovation Fund projects are business oriented. It should be business oriented, not only technological innovative. It's not a research program. So that means, yeah, you need to be profitable. You need to have a positive net present value, especially for the general calls, so the large, medium, and small scale, as Patrick said. It's also important to demonstrate how the public funding, so the innovation fund, increase the MPV. So the comparison with or without innovation fund. So how the innovation fund
Correct. This is an
grant,
important point. Yes.
yeah,
Robert.
is going to enhance your net present value, because sometimes some projects are not profitable without the funding and becomes profitable with. So also this point is quite important. I just want to conclude that this is a series of webinars. This one is the webinar for the technical feasibility, and at the end of April, we will have we are going to organize the next episode, let's say, about the business plan and the technical, the financial maturity. So for sure, our expert on business and financials are going to prepare a strong webinar, really interesting webinar focused on these aspects that are quite complex, and for sure consultant with a strong experience in the financials can provide more detailed information on these aspects.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Very good, guys.
so
Thank you
follow
both.
the webinars
Mhm.
until the end, because all the information will be provided.
And maybe one more, I could add one more thing. Remember that there is a page limit for your feasibility studies for business plans. You need
60.
to really think about that. At the beginning, when you're starting writing it down, it's like, whew, 60 pages, there's so much I can include.
Yeah.
But later on, once you start doing it, adding figures and so on, some pictures, you're starting to realize that this is not a lot, and you need to describe so many different aspects, like Roberto had in his presentation.
And also, Patrick, it's also important to remind that there are three important mandatory annex documentation. That is part B, that is the summary and the main section, let's say. Then we have the feasibility study for the technical part and the business plan. And all the information included in the annexes should be talk each other. I mean, don't consider the each annex separate. I mean, technical part is only technical part, the financial part is only financial part. So important claims about financial, of course, are reported in the business plan, but something should be also reported in the technical feasibility study, because for instance, the technical economical assessment is something required in the feasibility study, and you need to create the bridge between the technical parts, so investment, capex, opex, and the economical analysis that is part of the business plan. And also in the part B, because in the part B anyway we have the replicability, we have the summary of the financial maturity. But as Paula also said, the part B is not only a summary about the business plan and the feasibility. So the narrative should be comprehensive and should be really well detailed, even in part B, because the evaluator maybe read carefully the part B and not so much the feasibility study. I mean, it's not properly in this way, but some information can be lost. So you should be clear in every kind of every documentation you submit.
And also, I don't remember what was the exact number of days, but I think the expert, they have a week or 10 days to go through your application. It is something like that. So remember that they have very limited time for the application. Isn't that true, Roberto? Because I thought this.
No, I mean, after the submission, the results are out after 5-6 months. I don't remember exactly when the evaluators start reading the projects, the proposal. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know how much time they have.
Yeah, I've heard that they have limited
Paula
time.
maybe have some information about that. I mean, honestly, I have not.
Yes, usually as far as I know, an evaluator have something like 5 days, 3, 4, 5 days for each project who is in charge. And it is really important, and the European Commission highlighted that every kind of annexes will be read. So everything had to be read.
Don't underestimate the annexes, the feasibility, the business plan. It's not only part B. And also Excel files, because the business plan is the narrative, but for the financials, you have a mandatory Excel file related to the financial model. And this is really, really important. Such as the Gantt, for instance. Of course, the Gantt is more simple than a financial model, but every annexes that are mandatory are important. And don't underestimate the letter of support. From this year, the terms of supply, so the letter of support from suppliers, stakeholders, customers, and so on, are mandatory, especially for the supplier. I mean, terms of supply is mandatory. I don't know if there are other questions. I don't want to have a open discussion, but I would like to have some other question from the audience. Well, I think it's Eduardo, please.
Yeah, we can close it here. I invite you once again to follow us on LinkedIn and on our website. You will all receive a follow-up email with the recording and the presentation in the upcoming days. Thank you so much for joining, and see you in the
Thank
next
you very much.
episode. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
And have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.